그게 이유야?
아가씨, 뭐야 이것도.
The story about a rich woman who falls in love with her own servant. Even though they loved each other and have even slept together, but their relationship is opposed by her grandfather because believes the man is only taking advantage of the girl. This girl is named Kang Hyena, the sole heir to the largest company in Asia. In addition to being known for her wealth and talent, Hyena is also known for being arrogant and unpredictable. She doesn't hesitate to insult anyone who disagrees with her, and she's even bold enough to hit or throw down any man who tries to get close to her. In her luxurious palace, Hyena is served by dozens of maids and assistants who are always on standby for her 24 hours a day. Even though she lacks nothing in life, Hyena is never satisfied and constantly looks for faults in her servants. It's been counted. Hyena has changed personal assistants dozens of times, but none of them ever worked out, and in the end they were dishonorably discharged.
아가씨 잘못했습니다.
Her days, once filled with arrogance, suddenly changed with the arrival of Seo Dong-chan in her life. Dong-chan is known to work odd jobs and has many problems. To pay off the debt for his mother's medical expenses, Dong-chan was forced to borrow money from a ruthless loan shark who often extorted him. In the past, Dong-chan even worked as a male entertainer at a bar, but now he chooses better jobs, like working as a delivery driver at his aunt's flower shop, until he even once worked as a preacher at a church. Their first encounter began when Hyena was driving recklessly and suddenly stopped at a red light after cutting off the pickup truck driven by Dong-chan. This caused the pickup truck to brake abruptly, making the flower arrangements Dong-chan was delivering fall and scatter everywhere. The two fight in the middle of the street because Hyena refused to apologize to Dong-chan and threw money at him to shut him up. Instead of accepting the money, Dong-chan, who felt insulted, refused it and chose to take Hyena to the police station.
뭐? 상습범?
Seeing that Hyena was bored waiting at the police station, her lawyer tries to offer peace money to Dong-chan. Dong-chan was momentarily stunned when heard nominal the amount 50 million won, which turned out to be exactly equal to his total debt. Feeling that he was innocent, Dong-chan was still reluctant to accept the offer. Eventually, Hyena accused him of being a fraud and decided to take the matter to court.
너 말 다 했어?
맘대로 해. 너 겁낼 줄 알아?
Unfortunately, even in court, Hyena was found guilty. As her punishment, Hyena was sentenced to 150 hours in public service and had to pay a fine. As the daughter of a conglomerate, Hyena felt humiliated when the media covered her doing rather disgusting tasks, like when she was cleaning out livestock pens. Meanwhile, Dong-chan, even though he won in court, but still struggled to make money and continued working as a taxi driver. After finishing her public service, Hyena got into a conflict with her cousin named Sua, who had always been annoying and jealous of her. Sua and her family tried to find a way to have Hyena removed as an heir. Feeling upset, Hyena decided to look for Dong-chan to get revenge on him. At first, she ordered his taxi and acted as if Dong-chan had harassed her and was about to kidnap her.
너 지금 뭐 하는 거야? 야! 야!
The incident led to Dong-chan being arrested by the police.
내가 납치범이야! 아니잖아!
Dong-chan's cousin, Weiju, tried to get him released from the police station. Fortunately, Hyena's grandfather heard about the incident and got him released. Hyena still tried to kick Dong-chan out of her aunt's house under the pretense of eviction. Until finally, Weiju's mother heard the news that she had to move out of the house immediately. Honestly, Dong-chan very upset and realized that his opponent was a cruel woman with power. All night, Dong-chan kept drinking and stayed awake. The next morning, with all his determination, Dong-chan dared to go to Hyena's house. Arriving at a very grand house, Dong-chan was blocked by Hyena's 3 bodyguards. Until forced, he had to fight with them so he can break in. In the serene and beautiful park, Dong-chan unexpectedly met a man he initially believed was actually a gardener. However, to his surprise, The man turned out to be Hyena's grandfather, the name Mr. Kong.
걔 좀 만나러 왔는데.
In front of Mr. Kong, Dong Chan boasted he could teach the girl manners and break her fingers if Hyena did anything bad to others. The grandfather, who wanted to change Hyena's attitude, immediately locked his granddaughter at home. Hyena was left frustrated, as she had actually planned to go on an overseas vacation to unwind. Before leaving, while at the airport, Hyena was suddenly dragged away by Dong Chan, who pretended to be her boyfriend.
뭐하는 짓이야?
Even though she kept resisting, Dong Chan didn't care and still forced Hyena into the car. Hyena thought Dong Chan would take revenge on her. The girl kept screaming for help from a passing police officer. However, it turned out the police car ignored it and instead moved towards Weeju's house. Meanwhile, Dong Chan's car kept moving until it stopped at a grand house. It turns out that Dong Chan brought Hyena home on her grandfather's orders. Hyena was shocked and couldn't believe if her grandfather had planned all of this. To all the staff, Dong Chan introduced himself as the new personal assistant appointed directly by Mr. Kong.
앞으로 아가씨를 모실 수행집사 서동찬입니다.
It was the first day of being Hyena's personal bodyguard. Dong Chan was treated poorly by the girl, and manager Jang also rejected him. However, President Kong tried to convince them to keep Dong Chan and made it clear that no one was allowed to fire him without his permission. And Kong, as the head butler, began directing everything Dong Chan needed to do. His responsibilities as a bodyguard turned out to be quite heavy. Dong Chan must take care of Hyena for 24 hours and must know what she wants. Not accepting that her life is being watched, Hyena starts acting out and tries to make Dong Chan feel uncomfortable. Hyena called him while he was practicing martial arts and repeatedly hit him with a wooden sword. Not only that, Hyena continues to insult him and threatens to get rid of him soon.
그 말을 믿을 것 같아?
After being accepted as the head butler, Dong Chan asked his aunt and Weeju not to worry about him because his job now pays quite well. Dong Chan went to the loan sharks and assured them that he would pay off his debt in just 2 months. He arrogantly said that he would easily win Hyena's heart because he used to be a charming entertainer who was an expert in seduction. Because the deadline already passed, the loan shark demands that Dong Chan pay double, or if not, he will take much harsher measures.
5천이니까 따버리면 1억이네.
Feeling uncomfortable with Dong Chan as bodyguard, Hyena kept looking for reasons to get her grandfather to fire him. At the family dinner event, Hyena deliberately instructed the kitchen staff to stop cooking and leaving Dong Chan alone to arrange all the dishes for the guests. Even though Hyena treated him harshly, Dong Chan promised to keep doing his best as the top kitchen servant. With all his energy and limitations, Dong Chan managed to create a delicious dish for invited guests.
늦어서 죄송합니다. 앉으시죠.
In front of the audience, Dong Chan presented a special fried rice with a distinctive Andalusian flavor that left the guests absolutely and indeed amazed by his genius way of speaking. The next morning, Hyena caused a commotion because she was upset about her grandfather's urging her to marry. Even though she was forbidden to attend the horse racing event, Hyena still went there accompanied by Dong Chan. Suddenly, Hyena saw a handsome young man who looked very much like her ex-boyfriend. She was so focused on looking at the young man that she completely ignored her own safety and nearly got hit by a passing horse rider. Luckily, Dong Chan was quick to save Hyena from the blow. Apparently, Hyena is trying to chase the man's car by riding a horse and running a distance. However, in the end, Hyena had to cry in full disappointment because the person she was chasing was not her ex-lover, but a man named Lee Taeyeon. Taeyeon is the son of a conglomerate from the Yusong group who has dedicated himself as a lawyer. Unlike his older brother who runs the company, Taeyeon, who graduated top, chose to live a simple life, far from his family, to advocate for the underprivileged. Previously, he had problems with Suya's father because he refused to build a golf hill belonging to the Kongsan group, which would be built in a cultural reserve area.
누가 그딴 소리를 해?
The incident at the horse race that endangered Hyena was apparently discovered by manager Jang, which led to Dong-chan being fired for being deemed negligent in protecting his employer. However, instead of being happy, Hyena has changed his mind and still wants to employ him longer. Hyena made an excuse that she wasn't satisfied with torturing him, even though Hyena felt touched Dong-chan saved her at the horse race. On the other hand, Weiju is now working at a shoe store owned by Sua. Thanks to her diligent work, Sua really likes the girl because she always praises her shoe designs. All this time, Sua has been someone who craves praise and refuses to accept even the slightest criticism.
설마 그게 전부는 아니겠죠?
Chairman Kong, who wants his granddaughter to get married soon, plans to introduce Hyena to a man who is the son of the owner of the Yusong Group. And coincidentally, Taeyeon also wants to meet with President Director Kong to stop the construction of Gulf Hill. Feeling annoyed because always being matched, Hyena tries to run away, but Dong-chan keeps persuading her. Dong-chan wishes Hyena to see the face of her fiancé once so that her grandfather can feel at ease. Before hitting her fiancé's face the other day, Hyena first wanted to hit Dong-chan's face. However, when she about to slap him, suddenly Taeyeon stopped her and saying it was illegal. Because Taeyeon was considered too bold for touching his employer Dong-chan, rejected him harshly. For a moment, Taeyeon is stunned after hearing Dong-chan introduce himself as Hyena's fiancé.
당신 뭐야? 우리 아가씨 손 당장 떼지 못해?
To vent her frustration, Hyena kicks Dong-chan as hard as she can. Even though she had ignored him, it turns out Hyena is very curious about Taeyeon and starts looking him up on the internet. Hyena was a bit surprised to see Taeyeon's work history, realizing that he wasn't in business like his parents, but rather a lawyer with a small salary. On the other hand, Sua, who has fallen for Taeyeon, tries to get closer to him. She doesn't care though Taeyeon is her own cousin's fiancé. At the grand opening of her latest boutique, she even invited him as a special guest. However, they didn't meet each other because Taeyeon came for a short while and left after greeting Mr. Jolger. At the event, Hyena, who appeared so graceful, really captivated the camera's eyes until Sua felt outmatched. In order to make Hyena fall for him, Dong-chan asked the loan sharks to stop the girl after the event, and he would pretend to protect her like a hero in an action movie. But what happened was completely unexpected. It turned out that those who came weren't a gang of loan sharks, but thugs with muscular bodies. It turns out the thugs were ordered by young Master Park, who didn't accept it because yesterday Hyena refused and slammed him after the meeting. Dong-chan, who was outnumbered, was almost beaten to buy them. But luckily, Taeyeon come and helped him fight off the three thugs.
뭐 하는 거냐?
Seeing how brave Taeyeon was when protecting her made Hyena truly fall in love. She couldn't sleep all night because she kept thinking about him. Meanwhile, as the deadline for paying off Dong-chan's debt approaches, he becomes more determined to make Hyena fall in love with him. He managed to get Hyena to come out of her room after singing a romantic song and playing the piano. Not only that, Dong-chan had previously turned off the air conditioner in his room so that Hyena would ask him to fix it. In the bathroom, he had imagined a romantic night and was getting ready to kiss the young lady. However, the plan was thwarted by manager Jang, who came to monitor the house's CCTV. The next morning, Hyena went to the lawyer Taeyeon's office to give him a gift of several branded clothes. Of course, it was a token of thankful because Taeyeon had saved her from a gang of thugs. As an idealistic and honest lawyer, instead of being happy to accept it, it turns out that Taeyeon returned the gift, which offended Hyena. Besides rejecting the gift, Taeyeon also sneered at Hyena, telling her not to use her wealth to control others. Because he is not someone who can be bribed.
왜 저한테 하는 거죠?
해나 씨도 강상구로 강해나라에 유한.
The insult really deeply frustrated the girl, until leading her to vent by drinking wine all night. Accompanied by Dong-chan, Hyena cried, telling her all her disappointment because Taeyeon rejected her attention and didn't agree to this match. First time, Hyena felt undervalued because of her wealth. She regretted being briefly captivated by Taeyeon and thinking that he was similar to her ex-boyfriend, when in fact they were very different. Tonight, it's not just Hyena who is feeling worried. Dong-chun experienced guilt after his lie was discovered by Weiju. All this time, he literally lied to his cousin that he was going abroad, when in reality, he had become Hyena's servant, someone his family despised deeply. The next day, Hyena was scolded by her grandfather because her name appeared on the front page of the newspaper, which reported that she had just signed a letter of support for the lawyer Taeyeon, who was opposing her own father's company.
아니, 너 도대체 이게 어떻게 된 거냐?
It was a misunderstanding because yesterday, Hyena had signed a document at the law office. She didn't know that the letter actually a petition to protest the actions of the Yusong Group company that laid off thousands of workers. Hyena tried to dodge and defend Taeyeon because the lawyer never asked him to support the petition. However, grandfather still acted for the stability of the Konsang Group.
내 이놈을 당장에?
Not accepting that his granddaughter was associated with the Yusong Group company, the grandfather immediately withdrew his investment, causing the company to suffer significant losses. Hyena went to the lawyer's office to clarify the signature she had given the day before. Apparently, at the lawyer, Taeyeon is fighting with his brother who disagrees, because Taeyeon had used Hyena as a tool to go against their own father. In an emotional state, Taeyeon snapped at Hyena to get out of his room and not interfere in his personal affairs.
강혜나 씨, 그쪽에 끼어들 일 아니에요.
However, when Hyena tried to distance herself, suddenly Taeyeon came and intimidated her very harshly, saying that he didn't like the way Hyena was approaching him, especially getting involved in his father's company. Fortunately, Dong-chun arrived at the right time. He immediately Taeyeon in the face and warned him not to be rough with Hyena. In front of Taeyeon, he emphasized that his employer was a generous person and had no intention of pursuing him. The woman wants help workers at Yusong Group to get their rights. Hearing that, Taeyeon truly regretted having treated Hyena so harshly. He now has turned gentle and wants to apologize for his actions. However, feeling humiliated, Hyena vented her anger on Dong-chun and kicked him quite hard because her bodyguard kept rambling and warning her not to meet Taeyeon too often, who clearly rejected her.
아씨가 이태원 변호사 좋아하잖아요. 아니에요?
웃기지 마.
While at home, before Hyena arrived, the servants had already anticipated before Hyun tantrum and broke of various vases. They were a bit surprised to see the Hyena not destroying anything but instead channeling it by practicing martial arts until late at night. The next day, Hyena, trying to return the clothes rejected by Taeyeon, got into an intense argument with young Master Park, who previously ordered the thugs to harass her. The girl hit him hard. His nose bled as a result. The young master threatened to report her to the authorities.
아가씨!
At the same time, Taeyeon suddenly showed up and claimed to be Hyena's lawyer. He turned around to corner the young master because he had ordered thugs to harm Hyena. After the issue was peacefully resolved, Hyena agreed to forgive Taeyeon and start over from the beginning. Even though she had been hurt by his behavior, now Hyena forget it because she had truly fallen for him.
창피할 것까진 없어요. 잘 기억도 안 나니까.
On the other hand, Sua, who couldn't accept Hyena's closeness with Taeyeon, tried to investigate and asked Weiju to gather information about the two of them. The girl started cautiously asking Dong-chun, but his brother strongly denied that his employer had a special relationship with the lawyer. The relationship between Hyena and Taeyeon has just begun in order to gain the attention of the lawyer, saying Hyena is even willing to take a public bus for the first time because Taeyeon never drives a car home. Throughout the journey, Hyena felt happy because she could be with the man she admired. The relationship with Taya now faces strong rejection from grandfather, although it was grandfather himself who previously arranged their match. Now, grandfather has changed his mind upon learning that Taeyeon is not a businessman, an enemy of his father's company.
뭐야?
할아버지, 저 이 사람 좋아해요.
The grandfather didn't want to risk marrying his granddaughter to man rebel. He then forced Hyena to fly to America for several years to keep her away from Taeyeon's life. Frustrated because her romance was opposed, Hyena asked Dong-chan for help so she could stay in Korea because she didn't want to be far from Taeyeon. Dong-chan is trying to help as much as possible because if Hyena goes to America, he will automatically be dismissed. The next morning, Dong-chan devised a plan as if Hyena had run away from home to stay temporarily at her aunt's residence. Hyena's disappearance caused an uproar in the entire household, with the servants scattering in all directions to search for her. The girl managed to sneak into Aunt Dong-chan's pickup, delivering flowers to Hyena's house. Next, Dong-chan explains to grandfather and manager Jang that Hyena will not return until their relationship is approved. The worried grandfather tried to give his blessing to them if Hyena was willing to work at the Kongsang Group office as the chief director. He was left speechless after his granddaughter kept insisting that she truly loved Taeyeon, even if the whole world tried to stop her.
제가 누구 손녀인가요? 바로
In order to be with Taeyeon the first time, Hyena is willing to work at Kongsang Group even though she doesn't understand what needs to be done. As soon as he arrived office, Sua, who's cynical, immediately greeted her with a mocking tone. She even asked Dong-chan to switch to being her bodyguard instead of working with a witch like Hyena.
해나가 괴롭히면 언제든 때려치고 우리 집으로 와.
As an assistant Sua, Weiju is really confused about her bosses, who is hostile towards her grandfather's cousins. As the days go by, it turns out that Taeyeon is becoming more eager to get closer to Hyena because he feels that the girl is not the conglomerate he imagined. Similarly, Hyena felt the same way. She missed Taeyeon deeply.
제가 회의가 방금 전에 끝나서
However, Dong-chan prevent himself from being too aggressive and show his love so that Taeyeon feels more needed by him. He also forbade Hyena from answering the phone when Taeyeon called and said she was busy at the office and asked her to pretend she couldn't attend the party invitation for the orphanage children.
회사 스케줄이 워낙 바빠서 안 되겠는데요?
Behind that, it turns out Dong-chan still took her to the donation party and arrived slightly late. He created the impression that Hyena was very busy, yet still made time to attend out of respect for Taeyeon. So that Dong-chan wouldn't bother her during the event, Hyena asked him to go to the bookstore and look for some novels about dating. At that simple party, Hyena truly enjoyed the event and was entertained because Taeyeon sang a love song for her. Out of sheer happiness, Hyena kept drinking soju nonstop until she went home drunk.
씨, 괜찮아요?
All the way home, she kept rambling and talking about how much she admired Taeyeon. Dong-chan, who saw the young lady sleeping so beautifully, tried to touch her, but he refrained because she had already woken up. When Hyena got out of the car, she asked about what would happen next in her relationship with Taeyeon and what she should do the next day. Without thinking, Dong-chan immediately kissed Hyena on the lips and said that the next stage of approach was physical contact. Because was considered to have brazenly taken advantage of the situation, Hyena, who had been trying to hold back her anger towards Dong-chan, vented her anger the next day by beating the man with a stick until he was battered. Unable to fight because he felt guilty, Dong-chan was late and received a harsh reprimand from manager Jang. In the afternoon during work break, Hyena was very excited to attend a lunch invitation with Taeyeon. The lawyer wants to express his thankful because the lady has donated 100 million won to the orphanage foundation. However, it turned out that the event lost its specialness because Sua came to interrupt and wanted to join the meal.
태연 씨한테 상담할 게 있어서 들렸는데 네가 온다고 해서.
Both feeling annoyed at the dining table, they both seemed fiercely competing for Taeyeon's attention. Even in the middle of the conversation, Sua mocked Hyena for never working seriously and only coming to the office for formalities. In order to defend his employer, Dong Chan immediately asserted that Hyena has a secret program that is very beneficial for the company.
비전을 제시할 신규 프로젝트를 극비리에 진행 중이십니다.
Unexpectedly, Sua immediately reported the program, and suddenly her grandfather asked her to present the results of her plan to the board of directors. Feeling like she had no prior experience, the girl was confused about what to do. However, fortunately, Dong Chan provided her with the best solution that Hyena is very skilled in martial arts and asked her to present a self-defense tutorial for the female employees to protect themselves from harassment. Dong Chan played the role of a punching bag for the women who wanted to practice. He even let himself be beaten to support Hyena's presentation. The video tutorial of her beauty uploaded to YouTube successfully amazed the viewers, and the grandfather was very proud and valued Dong Chan's patience in taking care of his granddaughter. However, Weiju is very angry with Hyena because she often commits violence against Dong Chan. She asked her cousin to resign from the job immediately, but Dong Chan refused because he sympathized with Hyena, who was an orphan and lonely. He understands quite well that actually Hyena is not evil, it's just that he is too rough because he is too spoiled. After recovering from her injuries, Dong Chan returned to work and got ready to help the other staff prepare a banquet to welcome the Sua family. Unfortunately, he was suddenly approached by loan sharks demanding repayment because today was the due date. To avoid Hyena's suspicion, Dong Chan lied that they were church members who came to wish him a happy birthday.
그치. 해피 버스데이, 해피 버스데이.
생일?
He also tried to avoid those thugs so that Sua wouldn't see them, because yesterday the three of them had disturbed Sua at the grand opening of the boutique. In the evening, Hyena planned to go to an apple orchard to accompany Taeyeon. Initially, she asked Dong Chan to lie to her grandfather so she could pray without any obstacles. But because didn't want to worry grandfather, Dong Chan finally confessed until grandfather let her attend the party as long as she was accompanied by a bodyguard.
원래 솔직한 게 최고입니다.
With great enthusiasm, Hyena asked to depart at midnight so they could arrive in the morning. During the journey, he gave Dong Chan a birthday present, which moved him deeply. He became more convinced that Hyena had started to change and wasn't as cruel as she was at first. Even in writing, it stated Hyena didn't want Dong Chan to stop and asked for patience. She even promised to change for the better so that Dong Chan would want to be by her side and help her win over Taeyeon. When they arrived at the location, Hyena was a bit disappointed because Taeyeon still hadn't shown up. The lawyer then promised that he would come in the afternoon. Donkin tries to cheer up Hyena so she can enjoy the trip by playing a little bit in the apple orchard and spraying water at her. After waiting for quite a long time, it turned out that by nightfall, Taeyeon ended up apologizing over the phone, saying he couldn't make it. At that time, Taeyeon said he had to take care of the employee protesters at his father's company. Waiting all day and willing to come from afar just for the lawyer, but Taeyeon disappointing her. As a result, Hyena felt frustrated and vented by drinking liquor endlessly. Hyena cries in front of Dong Chan and keeps rambling because of her futile journey. For a moment, she realized that Taeyeon was only playing with her and never returned her feelings. Hyena regrets it was too naive and hope, but its love was never reciprocated. While at the inn, drunk Hyena asked Dong Chan to stay with her as she was afraid to be alone. She forbade her guards leaving until she was completely asleep.
너? 약속했다?
However, it turns out that the exhausted Dong Chan also fell asleep next to her until morning came. Unconsciously, he also took off his clothes and fell asleep next to Hyena. As soon as she opened her eyes, Hyena screamed and accused Dong-chan of doing something to her. At the same time, Taeyeon, who felt regretful for disappointing Hyena, arrived at the plantation villa early in the morning to meet her. Not wanting to be outdone, Sua, who always wanted to be close to Taeyeon, apparently followed him to the plantation location. The young man immediately knocked on Hyena's room door, making her truly panic.
일어났어요?
Realizing Taeyeon knocking on the door made both of them surprised. Dong-chan then covered Hyena's mouth so she wouldn't be discovered, which then made Taeyeon misunderstand. Even though Taeyeon tried to wait outside the door, Sua was suddenly barged in and saw Hyena trying to hide Dong-chan in the closet. Dong-chan tries to explain this misunderstanding last night Hyena asked to be joined, but in the end he fell asleep and nothing happened between the two of them. However, Sua still didn't believe and began to corner him. Not much different, Taeyeon suddenly turned cold as if he didn't care, even though his heart was very jealous. Hyena was very angry with Dong-chan and kept blaming him. Hearing this, Weiju couldn't accept Hyena, always blamed her cousin. Even though Hyena tried to chase him, but Taeyeon really didn't care until Sua suddenly felt awkward after that incident.
그놈한테 전한 이놈의 손가락을 그냥
During lunch, Taeyeon acted relaxed and didn't pay attention to Hyena at all. In reality, the girl was trying to find an opening to invite him to go horseback riding, but Taeyeon kept refusing. Seeing that situation, Sua felt satisfied and mocked that Hyena was more suited to Dongkin than to Taeyeon.
저희도 별로예요.
Because the situation was getting heated, Dong-chan couldn't stand it and finally revealed everything, that Hyena was willing to come all the way here just for Taeyeon. But why, he ended up ignoring Hyena just because of a misunderstanding. Dong-chan's very angry attitude in front of many people made Hyena furious, and she took it out on Dong-chan. As the sister, Weiju can't accept that her older brother is always being hurt by Hyena, switching to Hyena and Weiju, who are fighting fiercely each other until Taeyeon and Dong-chan try to intervene. Dong-chan saves his sister while Taeyeon tries to pull Hyena out of this fight. When Taeyeon tried to talk to her, because still feeling disappointed, the girl refused and chose to walk away. To calm her feelings, Hyena walked quite a distance from the villa location until Taeyeon and Dong-chan were confused looking for her. After searching the entire area, it was Taeyeon who found Hyena first. The girl still looked angry and tried to walk away ignoring him, but suddenly the lawyer grabbed her hand and hugged her. Not far from there, Dong-chan in anguish saw the two of them embracing. Upon arriving home, Hyena was happy and thankful to Dong-chan for helping her get closer to Taeyeon, but it turned out that this made Dong-chan unhappy.
먼저 전화한다 그랬지. 분명히 그랬지.
Meanwhile, Hyena invited Taeyeon to eat together and took her to her house at her grandfather's request. Taeyeon kept smiling and jokingly asked if this relationship was really just a friendship until the group president invited him to a formal event. In the afternoon, while Dong-chan was on CCTV monitoring duty, manager Jang approached him and asked him what his purpose was in coming to this house and why he made so many mistakes. Aware of having made many mistakes, Dong-chan was left speechless and unable to respond.
놀랄 것 없네. 다 알고 있으니까.
Because manager Jang kept insisting, Dong-chan finally admitted he was forced to lie to Weiju and Weiju's mother because he didn't want to make them worry. This alleviated manager Jang's suspicions and even made him sympathetic because he knew Dong-chan was in debt to pay his mother's hospital bills. However, manager Jang told the Wason waiter to watch his movements. Before her love arrived, the girl asked Dong-chan for his opinion on her looks. Moreover, this is Taeyeon's first official visit as her lover.
어때? 나 이상하지 않아?
Considering that Hyena no longer has both parents and trustworthy relatives, the grandfather asked Taeyeon to choose between Hyena or his profession as a lawyer. Grandfather apparently didn't want his future son-in-law's profession to become the biggest obstacle in his business. Responding to this, Taeyeon was honest with grandfather by saying that he would not give up either because both of them were an important part of his life. While Taeyeon was still talking with the grandfather, Hyena waited for him while playing the piano. When Taeyeon arrived, the two played a romantic song together. Even though not very skilled, however, Hyena always tests it until Taeyeon smiles. Not far from there, Dong-chan was watching them with a face full of sadness. After receiving news from her mother, Weiju, worried about Dong-chan's debt, went to Hyena's house for an explanation. She wanted to help Dong-chan pay off the debt, but Dong-chan continued to hide the truth until the two got into a rather serious argument. The commotion immediately caught the attention of Hyena and Taeyeon, who were not far from the scene. Feeling disappointed, Weiju returned home in tears, and Taeyeon intended to accompany her home.
의자 잠깐만. 의주 씨.
Seeing Dong-chan looking unwell made Hyena curious about why Weiju was so emotional towards him. To multiply it, Dong-chan lied that he had wronged Weiju and often disappointed her. Even though Dong-chan admits that he is not a good person, Hyena denies it and insists that she trusts Dong-chan because he is the most patient servant and can truly handle her. As promised, Dong-chan has to meet the loan shark, and this time he emphasizes that he failed to seduce Hyena and he would never do such a thing to his employer. Even though it sounded brave, in the end, Dong-chan was badly beaten and didn't fight back. He then returned to Hyena's house in a state of disarray. Dong-chan approaches Hyena, learning to ride a bike. The girl is curious about why Dong-chan was injured. So that Hyena wouldn't worry, he acted as if everything was fine and argued that fighting was a common thing for men. One day, without Hyena's knowledge, grandfather went for a health checkup due to his poor heart condition. To be honest, he was worried about Hyena's well-being after he was gone. Especially after learning from manager Jang that Dong-chan wants to quit his job. As difficult as it was, grandfather couldn't stop him because he understood that Hyena had always been a burden to him.
아쉽구만.
As a farewell gesture, Donkin once asked Hyena to start preparing her own breakfast so she wouldn't rely too much on others. But in a casual tone, Hyena replied that the servants were paid to serve her. Before morning, he joined the Hyena on a bike ride until both were smiling happily. The girl doesn't know Dong-chan will quit as her assistant. When saying goodbye, Dong-chan certainly wanted to definitely call his employer by name without using Miss Hyena because he was no longer her employer. Honestly, Hyena was hesitant to let Dong-chan go, but she didn't stop him and pretended not to want to see him again.
그게 네가 그만두는 이유의 전부야?
Since Dong-chan stopped working, Hyena reverted to her old ways and is even worse than before. Meanwhile, at the flower shop, Dong-chan works well without issues, but his days are still always filled with longing for Hyena. It wasn't much different. Turns out Hyena felt the same way. She acquaints Mrs. Dong-chan and asks Weiju about his state.
서동찬 걔 잘 지내?
The girl even went to the flower shop to meet Dong-chan and make excuses if she happens to be passing by. She asked Dong-chan to come back, but he refused, which made her quite upset, and she slammed a flower pot.
다시 너 보고 싶지 않으니까.
In the Kongsang Group Board of Directors meeting, Hyena made a significant mistake that resulted in major losses. The careless Hyena apparently just signed an operational contract because the mall was supposed to close. Feeling blameless and unable to come up with a solution, Hyena simply walked out without offering any explanation. As she got home, her grandfather scolded her for being so careless in making decisions. In an emotional state, Hyena argued back, saying she was never interested in the company's affairs and didn't want any of the wealth. Hyena even boldly declared that she would be fine if her grandfather handed the company over to Sua's family.
제가 언제 회사를 맡겠다고 했어요?
뭐?
Upon hearing that, her grandfather suddenly suffered a heart attack and had to be rushed to the hospital. In a panic, Hyena immediately called Taeyeon and informed him that her grandfather's condition was worsening. The lawyer then headed straight to the hospital to meet Hyena. While at the hospital, she was surrounded by dozens of reporters covering the latest updates on President Kang's condition. Apparently Don Chan, who saw the news, immediately went to the hospital and he arrived hospital before Taeyeon. Swiftly, he warded off the journalists and put up his body to protect Hyena from various questions about grandfather's condition. To avoid Hyena, Don Chan led her to the rooftop of the building. But a few moments later, Taeyeon caught up with them and was immediately greeted with a warm hug from Hyena. Even though he felt jealous, but Don Chan couldn't do anything but let go of Hyena's happiness. Feeling that his task was complete, Don Chan prepared to leave, but Taeyeon tried to stop him and asked Don Chan to continue looking after Hyena as before. He ignored the advice Taeyeon and said goodbye go home, but before that, Don Chan asked Taeyeon to look after Hyena because she was stressed, because her grandfather was sick.
우리 아가씨 잘 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Even though the manager had never liked Don Chan's presence, this time, he realized how important his role had been all along. Don Chan heard news if grandfather had to undergo treatment in America and asked Don Chan to return to work.
다시 우리 해나의 수행집사를 맡아주면 안 되겠나?
Throughout the night, Don Chan was doubtful. He didn't want to go back there because he couldn't keep torturing himself. He didn't want to make Hyena a target to pay off his debts. However, what could he do? Don Chan couldn't refuse grandfather's request, who was worried about his granddaughter's condition.
사장님, 아가씨는 제가 책임지고 모시겠습니다.
When Don Chan returned to work, grandfather was finally able to calm down to go abroad, and he entrusted Hyena to take replaced him as president director. He advised Don Chan to always help Hyena in handling
रोली के मन में बेचैनी अपने चरम पर थी। उसके दिल में बार बार यही सवाल उठ रहा था कि जूही आखिर उसके खिलाफ कौन सी चाल चलने वाली है। तभी दादी ने उसे नहार की चलने वाली वीडियो बनाने को कहा। पहले तो रोली तैयार हो गई, लेकिन जैसे ही कैमरे की नजर में आया बनी रूही का चेहरा आया, उसे कुछ समझ नहीं आया, क्योंकि रूही का चेहरा उस वक्त पूरी तरह मेकअप से ढका हुआ था और रोली को उसमें कुछ अजीब सा महसूस हुआ। इसलिए वह वीडियो को अधूरा छोड़कर जूही की जासूसी करने निकल पड़ी। अंधेरे गलियारे में छुपकर उसने देखा कि जूही किसी अजनबी से मिल रही थी और दोनों धीरे धीरे बातें कर रहे थे। उसके कानों में सिर्फ यही शब्द पड़े, उसे घर से निकालना होगा। यह सुनते ही रोली के चेहरे पर डर और गुस्से का अजीब सा मिश्रण उतर आया। उसे पक्का यकीन हो गया कि जूही अब कोई बड़ा तमाशा करने वाली है। उसका दिल कह रहा था कि अब कोई उसे घर से बाहर होने से नहीं बचा सकता। उसकी आंखों में डर इतना था कि उसने मन ही मन तय कर लिया कि अब वो जूही और रूही दोनों को अपने रास्ते से हटा देगी ताकि उसका सच कोई न जान सके। रोली ने जैसे ही जूही पर हाथ बढ़ाया, तभी आया बनी रूही अचानक वहां आ गई और जूही को उसके चुंगल से बचा लिया। यह देखकर रोली के चेहरे पर गुस्से की लकीरें और गहरी हो गईं। उसे यह समझ नहीं आया कि यह आया इतनी बार उसकी राह में क्यों आ रही है। इधर जूही ने चैन की सांस ली और रूही, जो अभी भी आया के रूप में थी, से कहा, अगर आज तुम समय पर ना आती तो मेरा बचना मुश्किल था। मगर उसके चेहरे पर संदेह की एक हल्की सी परत भी दिखी। उसने सोचा, हो न हो ये सब रोली की ही चाल है। अब उसके अंदर बदले की आग भड़क उठी। उसने कसम खाई कि वो रोली को सबक सिखा कर रहेगी। अगले दिन दादी और सोनी ने फिर से रोली से नहार की वीडियो डॉक्टर को भेजने को कहा। जैसे ही वीडियो की रिकॉर्डिंग शुरू हुई, रोली की नजर उस वीडियो में आया के चेहरे पर पड़ी। इस बार उसका मेकअप कुछ खराब हो चुका था और उसने घबराकर अपने चेहरे पर क्रीम पोत ली थी। रोली को समझ आ गया कि ये कोई साधारण आया नहीं, बल्कि कोई भेष बदलकर उनके बीच आया है। वह सीधा रूही के पास गई और कड़े शब्दों में बोली, तुम्हारा सच अब मुझसे छुपा नहीं है। तुम कोई आया नहीं, बल्कि एक बहरूपिया हो। यह सुनकर रूही का चेहरा सफेद पड़ गया। उसने डरते हुए कहा, आपको कोई गलतफहमी हुई है। लेकिन रोली ने पानी का गिलास उठाया और उसके चेहरे पर दे मारा। जैसे ही मेकअप उतरकर रूही का असली चेहरा सामने आया, रोली के होश उड़ गए। उसके सामने वही चेहरा था जिसे उसने कमरे में बंद किया था। रोली की आंखों में अब सिर्फ नफरत थी। उसने रूही को चेतावनी दी, अब मैं तुम्हारा सच पूरे घर को बता दूंगी और किसी भी कीमत पर नहार को ठीक नहीं होने दूंगी। रूही का दिल जोर जोर से धड़कने लगा। उसने सोचा अगर रोली ने यह सब दादी को बता दिया तो बिना कुछ सुने वो उसे घर से निकाल देंगी। वह भागकर नहार के कमरे में गई और दरवाजा बंद कर लिया। रूही ने नहार से रोते हुए कहा, अब तुम्हें ही सच बताना होगा कि तुम्हारी हालत की वजह रोली ही है, वरना मैं हार जाऊंगी। नहार उसकी बात सुन रहा था लेकिन बोल पाने में असमर्थ था। रूही की आंखों में आंसू थे, मगर उसने खुद को संभाला और कहा, अगर तुमने आज मुंह नहीं खोला तो हमेशा के लिए मुझे खो दोगे। उधर रोली ने दादी और सोनी को वीडियो दिखा दी जिसमें रूही का सच कैद था। दादी का चेहरा गुस्से से लाल हो गया। उन्होंने चिल्लाकर कहा, आज ही इस लड़की को घर से बाहर निकाल दो। जैसे ही दादी नहार के कमरे के बाहर पहुंची और दरवाजा पीटकर बोली, दरवाजा खोलो और चुपचाप यहाँ से चली जाओ। तभी नहार ने पहली बार अपनी आवाज उठाई। सबके सामने उसने रोली का सच उगल दिया। यह सुनते ही दादी और सोनी के चेहरे पर सन्नाटा छा गया, मगर रोली ने हार मानने से इनकार कर दिया। उसके चेहरे पर अब भी चालाकी भरी मुस्कान थी। उसने धीमी आवाज में कहा, मैं इस घर का चिराग अपने पेट में लिए हुए हूँ। यह सुनते ही सब एक दूसरे की ओर देखने लगे। शायद एक बार फिर दादी और सोनी उसकी बातों में आ जाएं। क्या इस बार भी रोली अपने झूठ से बच निकलेगी? अपनी राय हमें कमेंट्स में जरूर बताएं।